Hey, I hope all of you are doing well. Welcome to my Yakuza 6 The Song of Life review. Despite not being a JRPG per se, Yakuza 6 did catch my eye because of its setting and because, well, it has to do with the Yakuza. Although whether or not it accurately depicts the Yakuza is another story. I don't actually know if it does. Yakuza 6 will be my first Yakuza game, so this review will be based on my experience of never having played the previous games. A point of view you'll probably not see when reading reviews about this game, as most reviewers have played the past installments. There will be some minor spoilers, but nothing that will ruin any surprises. Unless you want to come in blind, then you should probably stop watching this and just go play the game. So with these things in mind, here are my thoughts on Yakuza 6 The Song of Life. The main character in the Yakuza series has always been Kiryu Kazuma, and Yakuza 6 is the final story arc in his life. For those of you who are just deciding to get into it, you might be worried that you'll have to play all the previous games before this in order to understand the story or to fully appreciate it. And you're not alone. This was definitely the biggest concern of mine when deciding to come into the series at the end of it. However, this isn't something you have to worry about. Not only does the game give you an exposition of the significant events leading up to Yakuza 6 and its characters, there is also a special section in the main menu summarizing the games from 1 to 5, although the events of Yakuza 0 are excluded. I skipped this section because I plan on playing the older games through the remastered Kiwami games and didn't want to spoil the events of those games. But like I said before, you don't really have to know what happened before to get into the Yakuza 6 story. On the other hand, having this knowledge will only be helpful, and will give you a deeper understanding and appreciation of the returning main cast. The story takes on a very serious tone with a focus on family and the bonds between people, which is a theme I really enjoyed and found relatable. Seeing all the relationships Kiryu forms with all the people he meets was touching and his honor inspiring. To oversimplify the plot of the whole game into one sentence, Kiryu wants to end his ties with the Yakuza family and go back to being a regular citizen living with Haruka, who is basically his adoptive daughter. Of course, if things went as smooth as that, we wouldn't have a game. Kiryu runs into all sorts of trouble before the game ends, but through all this, we can really see what kind of person he is. I quickly grew attached to this character throughout his adventure because of his strong conviction to protect what he believes in, not even being afraid to take on a whole mafia. Everyone he meets, everyone he trades punches with, were all very believable and relatable characters. Even some of the antagonists I couldn't help but feel sorry for due to their unfortunate circumstances. I also came to admire one of them, Somiya Takumi. As I learned more about his character and interacted with him, he gave off a different vibe compared to the other antagonists Kiryu meets along the way. He was very cunning and ambitious, so I was always suspicious of his motives. But it's that personality that really makes him an interesting person in my eyes. Whether it was Kiryu's allies supporting him or the antagonist getting in his way, they all played a very important role in the story that makes it very touching and engrossing. Haruka was another important character I was worried about connecting with, but like every character in Yakuza 6, they really presented her well and gave me a reason to root for her. The story is great and kept me invested, but what I really liked about Yakuza 6 was the lifelike simulation of gameplay. There are 2 cities to explore, Kamurocho and Onomichi, with various activities to do if you want to take a break from the main story. The best part is, everything you do ties in with character progression, so even the side stuff you do for fun will help you. Character progression is not very restrictive, which is one of the best parts of this game. There are 6 types of experiences you can gain depending on the type of activities you do. For example, if you ate on an empty stomach, you got experience. And if you ate a certain combination of dishes, you gain bonus experience. Beat up some thugs on the street, have some more experience. Using a combination of these points, you can boost Kiryu's raw stats or learn some new abilities. Some abilities are locked behind stat requirements but are easy to overcome, and a handful of abilities will be locked behind other abilities too. When exploring the cities, you will come across side quests, referred to as sub-stories in Yakuza 6. These quests are typically much more lighthearted compared to the main story, so if that's getting a little gritty, you can complete some side quests for some amusement and lighthearted action. Completing sub-stories was actually a very enjoyable experience for me, compared to most of the other games which felt more like a chore. It gave me more insight into Kazuma's character, as well as showing some interesting references and allusions to pop culture. There are also some touching side quests that make Kiryu feel like a person and relatable, which is a very important part of the character's development.
色っぽい感じで頼む。
OK、いいわ。エロい感じが好きなんだ。うふふ、わがままなのね。
Probably one of the most appealing parts of the Yakuza 6 gameplay is the minigames. There are tons of great minigames you can play, although there are also some not so great ones in my opinion, that serve as additional fun distractions in case you want to take a break from the main story or even when doing the side quests. One of my favorite places is the Sega Arcade. This place really reminded me of going to arcades during my childhood, something that doesn't really exist where I live anymore. I remember wasting some quarters on this game that I was terrible at and never touched it again, so it was a nice nostalgic "I remember this game" moments. I still suck at it, if you are wondering. Karaoke is another minigame I like, since I like rhythm games, and the singers actually weren't that bad. My favorite karaoke song pick is "Today is a Diamond," sung completely by Kiryu. The only two games I hated were baseball and darts, since you don't get to control anything 99% of the time in baseball, and darts was just boring due to gameplay mechanics. The minigame I found the most enjoyable is Clan Wars due to its simple but captivating clan creation and battles. And you also get a decent chunk of money for winning. Clan War is a minigame in which you create a team of fighters using a hierarchy and sending them off into battle. As you complete more missions, your hierarchy grows and you can include more members. Members lower on the hierarchy empower the members above them. The cool thing is, certain members part of the same hierarchy will gain bonuses depending on who is in that hierarchy, and the stats of the members empowering other members matter. So it was interesting using trial and error to find out which members supported each other the best. I actually found fighting to be very entertaining despite not having control of the character's actions. You can only send out 6 main units, but you can send out as many soldiers as you want as long as you have the resources. If it wasn't for the special skills of each main unit, this minigame probably wouldn't have been as fun, since you'd just be watching NPCs fight for 2 to 3 minutes. Sending out Tenzan to bull rush everyone was satisfying. The more intense moments come from fighting guys that are way stronger than you, which is where controlling movement and using skills properly really matter. Most of my enjoyment came from completing missions that had people who were way stronger than my guys, since I had to pay more attention to character positions and using skills more intelligently. So now that I've mentioned the many great things about Yakuza 6, let's talk about a couple of my complaints. The main part of gameplay that I wish was better is the combat. Although that can be pretty fun at times too. Kiryu feels very stiff during combat and the attack moves don't feel very fluid. Compared to action JRPGs I've played that let you animation cancel into dodge moves, Yakuza 6 doesn't allow that. Because of this, I get punished for button mashing. I know what you're thinking. Get good, right? And you know what? I agree. The problem is that Kiryu is not as responsive as I would like him to be, and this affects my experience negatively. Kiryu's basic moveset is also very limited. He can string together combos with light and heavy attacks, but there isn't much variety. I found myself using the same combos over and over again from the start of the game to the end of the game. He can also grab objects or people and throw them. Or if you'd rather pummel their face, that works too. Heat actions are the highlights of fights and allow you to do a decent variety of moves, although these moves also get very repetitive, even with all the heat actions unlocked. Heat actions are very fun to use, assuming you have the needed heat resource for it. When used, Kiryu will use whatever environment is near him to perform a very powerful special move. You can toss someone over an edge, smash their face against a car, counterattack, do a team attack, or even microwave someone's head. That last one is pretty crazy though, and I really enjoyed that move more than I should have. If you don't want to perform heat actions, you can also go into heat mode, which prevents you from dying and allows you to use some special attack quick time events. During story fights, sometimes you'll also get QTE during some of the battle cutscenes, which mixes things up a bit. In terms of graphics, the game looks very good most of the time. The environments are very detailed, and the ambience of the two cities are very reminiscent of their inspiration, Kabukicho and Onomichi. During the night, Kamurocho lights up and there are tons of people walking around the street, giving the impression that you're actually walking through the real thing. During the pre-rendered cutscenes, characters have very good detail in their facial expressions and lip sync. You can see the slightest movement on Kiryu's eyebrows as he starts to show his annoyance. Their movement and animation are very clean and pleasant to look at. It's almost like watching a live-action movie. When viewing in-game cinematics, the detail isn't as good, and some scenes even look questionable. Sometimes the lip sync won't match the words exactly, and the character animations aren't very smooth. This can be a bit jarring to watch and can dampen the experience a bit. Music in Yakuza 6 works a little differently than most games. There isn't always background music playing, which is cool since it's emulating real life. But it would be nice if I could use Kiryu's phone to play some music on the go. The only time you'll hear music is if you walk into a building that's playing music, or if some thugs decide to foolishly pick a fight with you. Most story events will only play music during specific scenes as well. When there is actually music playing, the songs are great and fitting of the situation, especially during the duels in the main story. My favorite theme is Theory of Beauty, which plays when you're fighting in a club. Very techno or house, and fits a club setting very well. Another example is when you're put in a situation that is time sensitive. The music made me feel like I had to rush there, or there was a sense of urgency. My biggest complaint, and I actually find it kind of funny, is that you don't have a volume slider for game audio. Usually games will let you control sound effects, voice, and music volume, but Yakuza 6 lets you do none of that. This probably won't affect most people, but as someone who produces video content, it's annoying when I can't turn off the music volume so I can overlay select tracks when I want to do specific segments while keeping the voice dialogue. So the final verdict is, whether or not you're a seasoned veteran of the Yakuza series, this is a game that can be enjoyed by everyone. The story is enticing, and I found it to be a nice end to Kiryu's adventures in the Yakuza series. There was not a single character I did not enjoy throughout my adventure in Yakuza 6. The protagonists, the villains, and the side characters were all amazing. I was really excited to see Takeshi Kitano in the game as he's one of my favorite actors from Battle Royale, and he plays his part in Yakuza 6 perfectly. There are a lot of lessons that can be learned after playing through this game, and its focus on family is one that I thoroughly enjoyed. While the graphics do look a bit funky in some areas, the game overall looks great, and the environmental design captures the spirit of Kabukicho and Onomichi beautifully. With tons of things to do in this game, along with tons of references and allusions, this is definitely a game you'll want to try out.
手段を間違えるなって言っただろうが。バカ野郎が。
And that's my review. Be sure to share your thoughts on Yakuza 6 as well. For people who've played it, was it as good as you had hoped? For those who are planning on getting it, does this review sell it for you? As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.